evening, and welcome back to the Ghost Biker Garage. I'm your host, the Ghost Biker, and we have such a wonderful guest tonight. I know a lot of the folks that are here in the chat room are actually personal friends of my guest tonight. He is a personal friend of mine. But before we get to bringing him on, we're just going to kind of do a little recap of some things that have happened over the past week since we were here last Thursday. We've had busy time up at the jail. As you can see, I am back in the garage this week, and we'll be heading up to the historic Scott County Jail tomorrow, which got a lot of things planned. It's going to be a very busy weekend. February, we are celebrating our Fall in Love with History Month, and we are celebrating the stories and the histories that surround the historic Scott County Jail, as well as our Crimes of Passion flashlight tour. Those flashlight tours are every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night from 6 until 7:30, and we cover some really cool stories. We go through the jail by flashlight, telling the history and telling about some of the different events, but each month we're trying to specifically tailor those stories. And so this month, with it being February and the month of love and passion, we are covering those Crimes of Passion stories. So essentially they're ones, of crimes that were not premeditated. And like I said, we got a lot of those to cover. So you can order those tickets online on the events page. We do have a public ghost hunt that Dr. Sumner and I are hosting. It's at the end of the month, but unfortunately depends on how you look at it. Fortunately or unfortunately, those tickets have sold out. But we do offer tickets throughout the month. If we don't have a public ghost hunt event posted, you can actually contact us to set up a private ghost hunt that would be led with Dr. Sumner and myself. So if your date is not on there or the date is sold out, you can reach out to us with your date. We actually have a couple of those that are private ghost hunts scheduled for this month as well, along with private paranormal investigations. The other thing is the paranormal research study that's going on there. We've been blasting that all over the internet. We've had folks reaching out to us. We've had a couple different teams who have been in during the month of January that's been participating during our paranormal research study. And we've opened it up to where if you're not a member of a team and don't want to book a full private investigation, you can book an hour and spend that time with it. So we invite all paranormal investigators, solo investigators, teams, mediums, and psychics to come out and check out our paranormal research study. Those are the main things that's going on there at the jail. The news, Living East Tennessee, they came and we got to spend Tuesday with them. It was a lot of fun. They highlighted us on the show. They've been so supportive in helping us get the word out that we are open and that we've got a lot of cool things going on. So want to thank them. And if you haven't been on to check out the interview from the evening that they spent with us, go on and check it out. We got the links on the Ghost Biker page, the historic Scott County Jail page, as well as my page and Dr. Christy Sumner's page. I believe, one last thing about the jail, and then we'll move on to other things. We did start our new podcast that's broadcast out there at the jail. It's called The Jailhouse Informant. We dropped that last Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so it's going to be live every Monday night. This past week, it was just myself and Dr. Sumner talking about some of the cool things that we're doing out there at the jail. And, we had a lot of people on, a lot of participation. This coming week, we're going to have the mayor of Huntsville on, and he's going to be talking about the historic preservation that went into the jail and kind of how Dr. Sumner and I became to the position that we're at in helping with the restoration and creating of the museum. So you'll want to tune in for that Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time on the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page and the Historic Scott County Jail YouTube channel. So all of that being said, we're going to go ahead, introduce our guest for tonight. I'm going to read his bio. I guess this is payback for me making him read my bio. So like I said, he's very impressive and has just an amazing resume of work. Tonight's guest is Barry Gaunt, also known as Bear, and he's the Kentucky Truth Seeker. He's been researching and investigating within all paranormal fields since 1976. Bear currently serves as the managing director of NightStalkers Paranormal Research Team, which researches and investigates hauntings, UFO reports, alien abductions, and strange creatures on a case-by-case basis. When this guy says he does it all, he literally does it all, and he knows what he's talking about. He's the host of the weekly podcast Into the Fire and is the assistant director at the renowned and extremely haunted Octagon Hall Museum in Franklin, Kentucky, along with hosting the museum's popular novice hunts with his paranormal team, NightStalkers Paranormal. He is a member of the Society of the Supernatural. In the past, Bear has held several positions such as Director of Investigation Standards and Procedures, Director of Research, Chairman of the Board of Directors, Manager and Assistant Manager of Star Team, State Director of Kentucky, and Assistant State Director of Kentucky. Bear is a staunch supporter of unity, sharing, and working with others throughout all of the paranormal communities. As a paranormal researcher and investigator, Bear is highly respected by his peers for his scientific, boots-on-the-ground investigative skills and style, and for his constant dedication to the truth. He's also known as a paranormal lecturer on topics of UFOs, alien abductions, strange creature spirit activity, hauntings, and universal consciousness. Bear has been featured on radio, TV, podcasts, documentary films, magazines, and newspaper articles, and is a contributor to the books Willows Weep, The Beginning, Real West Virginia UFOs, Sightings and Close Encounters by author Dave Spinks. So, that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pull my friend and yours onto the live stream here, Mr. Bear.
Hi, Miranda. How you doing? That was awesome, and thank you for the wonderful introduction.
Oh, you're welcome.
Super. And, as a person who does the hosting and does Into the Fire and does this wonderful thing, and we've got Billy and Toni in there with us, and it's so wonderful because I'm sitting here looking at you, and I didn't know you had that part into you, and now I'm watching it, and it's like going, it just mesmerized me. I'm going, wow, that is awesome because you do such a great job at it. And I'm so glad you're now doing it. And I'm so glad that other people get to experience it and hear other people's experiences because, man, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you.
Well, thank you. It's one of those things where I absolutely love, being able to put my season out and go and highlight these different locations. And essentially, I started Ghost Biker Garage as a way during COVID to put more content out. And then also, a lot of the amazing folks that watch here in the chat room, they were looking for other content as well. And so I thought, what a great way to be able to sit and have a chat because I love learning from everyone that I have on the show. And I feel like it's a great way to share what other people are doing and give people who watch my show, introduce them to other folks that are out there doing things. So I wasn't sure if it was going to take off or continue, and it went for a year. And I was excited to be able to carry it on for the second year.
And now you're doing 2 shows, which is fantastic. Excellent. So excellent. And I love the jail. I love to hear the stories, and everything we're hearing out of that is just fantastic. Hey, brother Melvin, how you doing?
Yeah, got a lot of great people. A lot of great people over here. And, just remind everyone real quick, if you have any questions, if you don't mind, try to put those in all caps. That way I can see it. And, that way I won't miss you because we are having the conversation and manning the chat room over here. So I want to make sure that get to everybody's questions. And, and then that way, when we get to a break in our conversation, we'll definitely pull it up here and, get to your question. So Bear, let's just go ahead and I just got to say, you got quite the fan club over here. First thing I want you to do, you got to do that. You got to do that Into the Fire introduction.
As we go deep into the fire.
Love it. Love it. So if people haven't seen you there at the hall, I know they know that voice from that show. So why don't you go in and
It's
kind of
you know what's funny is I was at the hall the other day, and they go, I just found Into the Far, and I just love your voice. I love the show. It's I'm like going, thank you so much. It's so awesome that people get to, you get to meet people out there, and you get to meet a ton of people too. And
yes.
we're just so blessed to be able to have this support that we do from so many great people.
We do. And I can tell you, I've traveled all over speaking at different events, and fortunately our paths have crossed at several of these different events. But even if by some chance you're not there, and it's an event that I'm at, everybody knows you.
Yeah, it's terrible. A long time ago, a quick story, and I'll get off of this and we'll get back to what we want to do. I was working as a plant manager for a job, and I decided to go to Wisconsin and pick up a 1969 GTO convertible. And with this guy, and we drove up there and we picked up the convertible and we brought it back. And we stopped at this place. And I get out and we go in to eat, and people in the restaurant are going, "Hi, Bear. Hey." I said, "Have you ever been here?" "No, never been here." He says, "How come every time I take you, there's people that know you?" I said, "Just that way." But something really else cool happened. I'm not going to go into that. But yeah, it was really interesting. So.
Very cool. Well, you've been doing this, like your bio said, since the 70s. So
a long time.
Yeah. So and you do all different types of investigations.
Right.
What really got you started? Was it the paranormal, or was it more of the UFOs? What supernatural phenomenon did you start researching first?
Great question. The first thing that happened with me, I was like you. I'm from the hills of West Virginia. And folklore is the biggest thing going on around there. And I used to huddle up around Grandma, Grandpa, Pappy, all the aunts and uncles and everything else. And all of us cousins would get in there and we would just listen to the stories. And they were so cool. And I mean, you heard some real humdingers. I mean, really good stuff. And then sometimes we'd sit in the breezeway and we'd get a flashlight, like that. Or we'd try light as a feather. What's that? I can't think of that. Light as a feather, stiff as a board. Right? Yep. Yeah. Light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Yep.
We do that. And I was always amazed at that. So that's kind of how I started it. And then all of a sudden at the age, and back in, I shouldn't even say, back in 64. It's back in 64, I had an abductions scenario. And I was abducted. That was my first real case. And then after that, other things started happening because it became very sensitive. My grandfather passed in 63. This happened at 64. The next thing I started is seeing spirits. I'd see Granddad walking through the house. I'd hear all kinds of different stuff. And so that kind of got me interested in it. And then we'd go on adventures in the old parks and everything. And then I'd find gigantic footprints. Like we'd cast them, and we found weird footprints, like three-toed creatures that were this long, and I took it to my high school, and one of this lady in the library really liked it. And she said, "Can I have that?" And I says, "Well, yeah, sure. It's okay. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with it." And then she says, "Come back in the afternoon." Well, you're going to think this is weird, but I came back, and she's a librarian. I come back into the library, and she says, "Come over here." And then she has this whole section that's behind everything that's about witchcraft, demonology, ghosts, lycanthropy, all this stuff, So here I am reading that stuff, So that's got me into it. And then I started a radio show back in high school. And we had the radio, we'd play it through the halls and all that other stuff. And then I got on real radio for a little bit. And I got an opportunity to be able to interview a fantastic man, like the great grandfather of the paranormal, Hans Holzer. And, and I had this new little Marantz deck, dual the deck and everything else. And I interviewed him in Case Western Reserve. And he said, hey, look, my sound guy is not being able to get there. Would you mind coming out? Would you like to do a ghost hunt with us and bring that recorder when we'll set it up and we'll do that? So that's what I did. And I got to sit and talk to him, and it was just wonderful. And ever since then, I got bitten. I was bitten, and read several of his books and everything else. So, and the place we got to investigate was the Franklin Castle in Cleveland, Ohio. So, which is
too cool.
It was great. It was great. And everything else just kept on going. I'd see UFOs, I'd have other encounters, I'd have all that stuff. So it was a whole smorgasbord of stuff. And, when we were kids and even driving in the cars with mom and dad and everything else, they'd go, Boogers and Haints. Boogers and Haints.
Yes.
And when you're driving down the road and there's a booger, the kids don't look out the window.
See, I had this conversation with Deeper Alabama TruthSeeker this past week, and we were talking, and I said, my grandmother, she said she always called them Boogers and Haints, and she lived across the field from where we lived, and so I would stay there at her house up until time, as late as I could, till it was time to go to bed, and she'd be like, now you hightail it up there to the house, don't let the Boogers and Haints grab you. And that's what I just always thought they were called.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy stuff, but and I still to this day love to hear the old folklore, because in every folklore story there is a lot of truth, even though it's been told 14 times. If you get back and research it, I'm telling you. And the places we came from, religion was a very big part of their everyday thing. And when you got somebody that's really religious and they're sitting there like this with a hand, they're saying, the stack of Bibles this high with my hand on it, I'm telling you, that's what happened. And I go, yeah, well, I believe that.
Yeah, and that's what I always love about it, in especially researching sort of like the Appalachian folklore and the backwoods magic, if you will. It is very steeped in religion, and a lot of the spells, I guess, they have a religious connotation to it. And they're probably not called spells, in that sort of sense, but it, essentially was what it was. And so just completely fascinated of the combination of the two. And then depending on the quote unquote holler of the mountain that you were in, they would be very similar, but they could be different based on the people that lived in that holler on that specific mountain.
So true. And it was really funny. My grandfather and my grandmother on my dad's side were the kind of people that she was a midwife, delivered 800 babies in the area, did all kinds of stuff, would witch for water for everybody and did all their wells. And Granddad was the guy that they came back always to stop blood or pressure points or anything like that. And he would just say the words out of the Bible and bleeding would stop.
Yeah, and I tell you, and I'm actually wanting to find a little more information out about this, but there was a guy who went to our church. We were Southern Baptist Church, and he was one of the elders and deacons in the church. And so when I was a kid, of course, you couldn't keep me inside. I was always back in the woods, always outside, and I was playing with snakes and frogs and turtles and anything I could get my hands on. And so I had a wart on my thumb and a wart on the side of my middle finger. And my dad, being a chemistry and physics teacher, he would often make like little tinctures or whatever you would put it on it, and it might go away for a minute, but then it always came back. And so I remember someone down at the church was talking about this gentleman from the church, and I believe what he had to be is he had to not know his dad before he was born. I believe was what it was. It wasn't a seven. I don't believe it was a seventh son of a seventh son, because that's the thrush.
Right.
But he and his dad had passed away just before he was born, so he never knew his dad. And he lived around the road from us, but he also went to the church. And so one evening, my dad walked me around the road, and I can't tell you what this guy did, but he touched those warts, and I can't remember if he used a rag or if he used a pencil eraser, and he rubbed it, and he said some scripture, and the warts went away within a week. They never came back. I don't even have scars. And I had those all my life. And so he's since passed away, because at the time I would have been probably around 11 or 12 years old. And he was in his late 80s, I believe. And he ended up passing away in his 90s. And so I've been wanting to reach out to his daughters to kind of talk to them to see if they knew, because that's something that I've always been absolutely fascinated about. And, the man was in church every Sunday, but you can't convince me that that's not some type of witchery.
Well, it's funny because Bible teaches you and everything else that there are people that are giving gifts for certain reasons. And, the most people always go, how can you believe in the paranormal and believe in the Bible and everything else? It says, the Bible is the greatest paranormal book ever written.
Right.
Just look at it that way. And it strengthens your faith in a lot of things that you do, especially when you've been out looking at boogeymen all night long.
Absolutely. And that's something I always say because people often ask me that. And it's like, to me, it's an opportunity for a testimony, and it's something that has strengthened my faith. I've always believed in the afterlife, always been in church. And, for me, this is just something, it's a calming and comforting experience for me, honestly, to be able to go and do this and to see, just to kind of see and theorize and stuff, how it is. But like you said, I do look to the Bible personally for some of my theories and explanations on things. And of course, I'm sure that's just because that's how I grew up. But to me, it explains a lot.
It explains a lot. It does. It explains a tremendous amount of things. But, it's funny because when you look at that, there is supposed to be, and, in the lore that we grew up in, and like Granny being a midwife and a witcher and all that kind of stuff, witcher of water. It's so weird because supposedly when you have someone that has a gift like that, when they die, there's another person in the same community that comes back with that gift.
Wow.
Have you ever heard of that before?
I feel like I've heard that, but I didn't quite know how that understood. I didn't quite understand how that worked. Do they know?
They find out pretty quick. It's like going, yep, I can do this.
Because it was not, people would name names of, people who could cure thrush and who could, do stuff like that. They knew who they were. And I remember having conversations with my dad, and he would say, oh, so-and-so used to be able to do that. They were a seventh son of a seventh son, or or they, their family was able to do that. And so, to me, that's just something that's always been fascinating, because it's like, how do they know? How did they know they could do that?
It's just the same thing. We all search for the truth of everything, and we're out there wanting to know what's next in the world. And if you're into the UFOs, are we alone? And I don't want to get eaten by Bigfoot.
So leading into that, so do you believe that all of these different supernatural phenomena are related?
For me personally, after all the years, it's very hard for me to say they're not related. If you're not studying, it's okay. And don't get me wrong, I'm not harping on people. I know a lot of people get going on the ghost thing and everything else, which is great. And, gosh, I love it, but you're missing so much more. I mean, and, where I spend most of my time at every day, like you have your nice little place down there at the Scott County Jail, and I've got the Octagon Hall Museum, and I spend all my time up there. And if you're just about ghosts, you're missing a lot of stuff that's going on around you at Octagon Hall. It is one of those places where, whether it sits on the 37 parallel, whether there's a gigantic geode in there somewhere that is beaming up whatever, but it is bizarre because you're going to see strange creatures, everything else. And, you'll see Bigfoot. But then 2 weeks ago, give you a perfect example, we had a new docent volunteer, and he's been there since about July. And he comes down on a Saturday afternoon, and he starts talking, man, I started pulling the hall, and I see this weird, crazy beast running across the road. Almost gets hit by a tractor trailer. And it's like going, you're kidding me. He describes it to me. And I'm like going, that's pretty weird. And what's really weird is that about an hour and a half later, this lady comes in, white as a sheet, coming in from the cemeteries. And she looks at, she says, I don't know what's out there, but there's like a 300-pound wild dog that sits really weird. It's got a spiked back coming down on it. Its head's kind of weird, gigantic head. And this is the same thing that this guy describes. And she says, it scared the out of me. I'm not going out there. And I'm like going, pretty, but yeah, we're on Octagon Hall. Yeah, I can believe it.
Typical day.
Yeah, new.
So let's talk about Octagon Hall and where it's located there in Franklin, Kentucky, and just some of the things that you can see. So let's talk about the history, the area, and all of those different crazy things, as far as UFOs and cryptids and the paranormal. Let's talk about all that you can experience there.
Oh, well, there's so much, and Octagon Hall's history is so great, and that's one of the great things, being a researcher and doing the same thing. I always tell people, if you don't like history, then stay out of the paranormal end of it, because, you've really got to get to that part. You've got to get into the part where it's all that way. And it is so important. And Octagon Hall's history is so rich. And I see you put up the pictures of Caldwell's. That picture was done in 1863, and that was taken off of a tintype and enlarged into that to be able to stay over the fireplace. But that is Harriet Morton Caldwell. That's the second wife of Andrew, and then that's Andrew Jackson Caldwell. And the house did start in 1847, and that is when it started. Andrew took a bit to build the house because he used all the bricking on the house all the way around is 3 bricks thick.
Wow.
That's what makes it so, you can be outside and you walk in there and it's quiet, it's steady, and it's amazing. But they were all made on the property. And they were living in the house as they were doing all this, but at the same time, that's what happens, and it took him a little while to build it. We find through our research that he was a Masonic member, and he incorporates some weird stuff into that house. And the octagon is a very special symbol to the Masonics. And there you get the perfect house right there for the oddness. And he has 6 windows on each side. He incorporated it so that you can see north, south, east, and west perfectly out of it. And then the side windows he actually set for the equinoxes and the solar, the soul, whatever I'm trying to say. Excuse me, solstice. And then of course we have the war coming to the house, and the war between the states. Kentucky was always been known to be neutral, but it was very north and south oriented. Down here, we were very close to Nashville. So Bowling Green was actually the capital of the Confederacy here in Kentucky. And they take a very hard stance in Bowling Green. And the Union forces from Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Louisville itself come down, and they take on the far side of the Barren River that surrounds Bowling Green. And they start going in to do, they got the high ground. So what do? They start artillery shells, and they just shell it. And then all of a sudden the Confederates says, well, we're in a bad way and we can't stay here very long or they're going to destroy us. So they get up and they move the 20 miles south and they stop at the Octagon Hall. And, that is a, really, when you think of it, it wasn't built to be strategic, but it's a very strategic place when you look at it, because you can see it in all directions. It's 40-foot high. It's got a cupola on top of it. It's really interesting. And but people say, well, look at all the houses they passed up. Why come they didn't stop there? Well, there was a Captain John Caldwell in the Kentucky 9th that was leading them there because he knew of the house, and that was his uncle. Andrew Jackson Caldwell was his uncle. And he brought 9,000 Confederate soldiers there.
Wow. Did the other houses around have as much land around them as the hall has?
Because, yes. Okay. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And there was 3 major houses. There was the Hamptons, which was, it's almost right next to the hall, not very far away from the hall. And they had like 6,000 acres. The hall had 1,500 acres. And then there was the Pines across the street, all in the same area. But they all encamped around the Octagon Hall right there. And then later, 5,000 Union soldiers show up, and they just roughhoused the place. They ruled by fear and raped, pillaged, and did all kinds of terrible things. And it went on from there. But the hall's magic is in its history and also in the way that the house lives and breathes. These spirits are there, and they love to tell a story. You've been there many times, and yes. When you can address them in a proper way, respect them, and they want to tell their stories, and you'll get some yes. really good information from them. But at the same time, it's also a weird place. It's the only place I've ever been in the slave cemetery, and they'll say, stay in a circle, aliens. So you know what an alien is? Yes. Aliens. You're like going, that's kind of weird. And we've seen all kinds of stuff. We had tell the story. Nick Groff and I were sitting there talking one night, and he was preparing for his new show, which was gosh dang it all. Sorry, Nick, I can't. I sound too much.
Is it Death Walker?
Death Walker. Thank you so very much. Yeah, and he was doing that, and we were in there talking about all different kinds of stuff, and we walk outside, and sure enough, what happens above he goes, holy cow, what's that? And we just looked at it, and we got a drone in the hand, we got cameras, everything else, and everybody's just like, quick, get somebody to take a picture of this. And then as soon as that happens, and it's gone.
Was that his first time investigating there, or had they been there before?
That was his first time. Aaron's been there a lot. Okay. Aaron's been there 2 or 3 times, and that was the first time for Nick. And he really enjoyed it. And we had a great conversation. He's changed a lot in the years, and he's really a great guy. So.
Yeah, good advocate for the paranormal community of
exactly
of all the different. I don't get to watch a lot of the paranormal shows on TV, but as far as those go, he's one of them that's been the best advocate, I think, for the paranormal community.
Yes, I think so too. I agree with that. And it was such a great night to have him on Into the Fire also, and it was super. So. But the hall, all these places, as you walk back through the hall, it goes all the way back. We are on the 37th parallel, which is known as the UFO highway across the band of the world. Also known as some of the weirdest places to be able to see paranormal activity if you're a degree north or south of the 37th, 38th, or 36th. You're going to have some interesting things going on. And we're sitting on top of caves, limestone, sinking creek that's above in Franklin, certain areas, runs right underneath the house. So combined all those things together, and what do you got? A paranormal mega house.
Yes.
And Octagon Hall, believe me, is that for sure. It's one of my favorite places to come. I just have so many great places. I look forward so much to coming to the Scott County Jail, and talking about some of the great things. And you've been here also, just down the street from Octagon Hall.
Yes.
Now is a great place in Franklin. It's only 6 miles away. So when teams come there, I highly suggest you go down and see Billy Wilkerson and all the people at the Historical Society and go through the Old Stone Jail. And it's a great place because you got the Old Stone Jail on one side, and they also let you on the historical side. And it's really fantastic.
And the Historical Society has done a really good job with, I'm always impressed every time I go in there with their display and how they, the pride in their history and just the hard work that they've put in to the Historical Society there, as well as, the Old Stone Jail and the jailer's house. It's immaculate. It's very nicely put together.
Yeah. And, a lot of, not taking away from anything that they did, but I've got to, God rest his soul, I've got to mention Billy Bird, because Billy was the head of the Historical Society for 8 years back that time. And he was one of the people that, you've been upstairs in the jailers and you saw those writings on the wall and everything else.
Yes.
Billy was involved in finding and going underneath the house, and going underneath that and looking at, he's been all over that area. And he was quite an interesting guy, and it was fun. I loved him to pieces, and he was a great man.
Yes.
And I was very proud to know him for the time that I did, and every day, and I became part of their family. And he even baptized me at one point. So never forget that. So.
I feel honored to have had the opportunity to be able to meet Billy Bird. He was there the first time that I investigated the hall, and I think I saw him 3 different occasions when I had investigated there, and then I know his health got bad, and so I didn't get to see him very much after that point. But you could clearly see his work and his hand that he put on the hall, and now that you mentioned that, definitely there at the Old Stone Jail. So such a loss for the community. And
it's a terrible loss, but you know what? He was ready, and he left his legacy behind, and he was the great and wonderful Billy Bird, and respected highly. And I was just glad to be his sidekick for 12 years.
Right. Yeah. And I know he would be so proud of you all carrying on there at Octagon Hall as well, the work and just doing everything you can to get it better, because it seems like the hall is just thriving right now.
Yeah, it is. It's changing. We're doing things to it, and they know. And as having a location now, that when you walk in, they know you.
Yes.
They know who takes care of that place. They know who's taking care of their home, because it is their home. Hate to have a home that's a jail, but it did become their home. And the same thing with Octagon Hall. And, so you're there, and some people say, why don't you stay with me? Because the activity is better when you're here. And I'm like going, Doesn't have anything to do with me. Just change your lures and fish different,
Yeah.
and they have a lot of activity. But it's weird when you go into a place and you hear a disembodied voice go, "Morning, bear." Yeah. Hi. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what I gotta say about Octagon Hall, because I've investigated that place a lot, and
Mm.
I don't think I've ever been there that I've not experienced something. Now, I kind of thought, the last time was a little bit quieter, but of course, when I went back and was reviewing evidence and everything, and it wasn't as quiet as I thought it was. Now,
Yeah.
and it wasn't completely quiet that night because we were hearing things in the moment,
Uh,
but I don't think I've ever been there that she's not been, very vocal and the spirits wanting to interact.
yeah.
It
Well,
really is quite the impressive place.
the interesting thing about it is that people come and they expect to see, some of the new folks that come out. And, I'm so glad to see that they're taking interest in the paranormal. Somebody's got to carry on. But, it is great to be able to hear their stories when they have a good time. But some of them come out and they expect to see a full body apparition every time they're at home. Doesn't happen, folks. I'm telling you, it's a rare feat. But I've seen a lot of them. And I was telling you about someone that was out there today, and she was on the back porch with me, and she was looking across the field, and she goes, I said, "Are you okay?" And she's like going, "My gosh, I just saw my first full body apparition." And it was like so cool that she described this guy. And it's just a wonderful thing. It's great to see people get excited about that stuff. And she's been coming to the hall and doing events there and everything else. And she's probably been going there for 6, 7, 8 years. And she saw her first full body apparition today on the back porch.
That's so cool.
Cool.
Were you all the only ones that were there at that time?
Myself, Isaac, and her. And it was
Okay.
just fantastic. It's just like going, and you never forget it. And you get to see the joy on their face and the mystery also on their face, which is it's great. And, as you know, you and I have probably seen some things that we don't want to ever think about because it's hard to wrap your head around. And that's what I always say about the hall and some of these other places that we've been. I see things that I can't unsee.
I was going to say, sometimes those things when you lay down to go to bed at night, you start to see them very clearly at that point, and you're kind of dwelling on it. It's like, it's and that's what I often tell people, especially like residentials and that sort of thing, because I'm like, you got to be careful because sometimes you see things you can't unsee, and you see them very clearly when it comes time to go to bed. And that's when my mind starts to try to want to figure them out. And there have been, for the most part, I've not had anything that scared me, but there have been some times, few things I've seen and experienced that does make you, it's hard to not think about when you lay down, when you live by yourself and you lay down at night.
Well, I've seen some stuff that I cannot wrap my head around. I remember Billy and I sitting in the house, and we'd be going, we didn't talk about it very often, but when we did it, we'd all say the same thing. Did that really happen? Are you kidding me? Did we actually see that?
Yeah, and you guys just released a pretty cool video on your Facebook page of some findings
of Mary's door being shut. And it's a great video, but people who don't know the hall, I heard some people were saying, and everybody's going to debunk stuff and everything else. That's great. I don't care, but I know what it is. And when we put it up there, and we don't put a lot of stuff up there because I just don't want to deal with that stuff. But it happens all the time. But when it happens like it did, there's a reason why, because there was noises and voices beforehand. And then when the door shuts, and this is before anybody is there, the house has been empty for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super windy outside. There's not you've been in the hall. There's not a strong draft. Doors just don't go oop by themselves.
No.
So here we are, cameras on her door because it's happened before. And you hear the noises and then it starts to close, and then we have a bell on them now, so we can hear it at the house when it does.
Oh, nice.
So that's that little bell. And that bell goes off and then it beats itself against the door. You don't hear it going off anymore. But the part that's interesting, if you watch the video again, the door comes very slow.
Mm-hmm.
When that does that, you hear that bell really hit hard. Okay. Now, knowing that door, that someone at the very end pushed that door fast to make that bell push that hard, because the door is not coming that slow. And it pushes that hard at the end. And the funny thing about it is to shut that door all the way, which that was, you have to turn the handle at the same time you're doing it.
Ah.
So, excuse me, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
But when
and that's cool. You've gone that. I mean, you have that familiarity with it, so you know how those doors close.
Yeah.
And
I know how they open too. That's weird too.
Exactly. So to be able to go in and and know that, because you're right. A lot of the time you put stuff out there, everyone's got an opinion. People, people love to debunk, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Unless you've been in there, it is exhausting, because it's like, one, if you're not there in the moment with the personal experience, that's one thing. But another thing too, if you've never been there and you don't know how the doors work and you don't know how, the movement, the sound, the speed, all of that, if you don't know how it works, you can't legitimately debunk those sort of things.
Right, exactly. And that's what you need to do. I mean, it's the same way we do when we're on any investigation. It's all part of common sense. As you do it more and more, it all becomes natural to you. That's like, I've been with the Night Stalkers for so long. I love them. They're my family. People talk about friends and teams. Well, this is my family. These are the ones that we have gone through over hills and dales with and high things. And, we go to a paranormal investigation. I probably have the easiest job in the world. I have the title of managing director of Night Stalkers. I'm like, okay, guys, we're going to go in here. And everybody just runs around, does the stuff everybody does. They already know the routine. And, we do it. And it's back up and going, and we enjoy the rest of the night. We enjoy each other's company, and everyone has their own talent. That's the reason. That was one of the things that Hans Holzer always said. And always remember that there are people that are really good in EVPs. There are people that are great with cameras. There are people. I remember having some of those conversations with him. So if you find those people, put those people on your team. And we have, and I just love them. And I do anything for them because they are my family. And we're very special people. And we've traveled across the states and everything else. And we've seen some pretty things, and we've seen some pretty nasty things.
So tell me a little bit more about your team, because I know they are, like you said, they're a phenomenal group of people, and it's hard to find a good cohesive team like that. And you guys have got just this, you've got the recipe for it with the folks you have on your team. Just great people.
It's wonderful to have it, and it's hard to find. It's a mix that we always work for, and Billy and Toni will tell you, she says, we've always wanted to, we've been at the hall, we've always been there. We had our eye on them for a solid year.
Oh, wow.
And then watched them and everything else. And then finally said, we'd love you to become a Night Stalker. Would you be interested? And then they said yes. And it's been great ever since, and Melvin, Billy and Toni are super. Gosh, I can't say enough about them. Melvin, We nicknamed him Hound Dog. He's a super researcher, Golly, if you want to find something back 1,400 years ago, Melvin was there. He's like going, I got this. And he comes up with some really amazing stuff. And he's a great investigator also. And yesterday we got to sit out the hall together, and it's always great when you're open, nobody's there. Melvin gets to come up and spend some time. And we sat there with the ghost box, and we were just talking to the hall.
Yes.
And just sitting in the dining room, and you wouldn't believe some of the stuff that they were talking about. I mean, we were asking them questions about, we just talked about, well, we're going to do a book. Let's find out this fact. And they were, oh, yes. And, oh, no, this is the so-and-so. And it's amazing because they're so intelligent. Casey Shrugs. My gosh, yes. Father Casey. There is a man that would give anything to anyone, helps everyone, and goes through it all. I mean, he dedicates his life to the church, his priesthood, God, and he is out to help people. And
yes.
When we do the things that we do as a team, and not all teams do what we do, and that's what I was talking about, cleansing, removing certain spirits and so forth like that, which is extremely dangerous. Don't let anybody ever tell you it's not. It's just not going in and going mumbo jumbo, blow some smoke and then get out of there. That's not the way it works, because you can get in really trouble and you can cause family problems. But Casey's a great counselor. He's worked all over the place with other paranormal teams, and he is a blessing. But then we have Steve Miller. Steve Miller has the tech knowledge, and also a great investigator. And I've known Steve for many, many years. And he is, he has his own Evermore Paranormal, and he still has that, and he still does TV shows and everything else, because we don't say, oh, you're a nice talker, you got to be a nice talker all the time.
Right.
That's the way it is. Enjoy
exactly.
it. I don't want to be the head man all the time. Billy, come on here and do the show, or do this and do that, and that's what it's all about. We don't have the ego, we don't have the stuff they feel, stuff like that. So, but they're just so great people, and we have some great. The travel is interesting. Let's say that. Going in a truck car or a truck with all these people, and we have some good fun. We work hard, we play hard, but we've had a lot of good jokes, and we've had a lot of great stories that happen. And some of the things that we deal with, as you probably know, spirits know when you're coming.
Yes.
And spirits know when we're coming. And you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you can your truck's going to fly through the air, or something's going to, go on. And it's just amazing. They don't want you to go there. Your GPS will take you 300 miles out of the way. It's really amazing.
Yeah.
And we were I got to tell you, we were up in Indiana, and we were going to a location that you mentioned Dave Spinks wrote a book about. He owns that location. And we go ahead, and we're leaving a bed and breakfast. And we've been down this road many times. We know where we're going, everything else. And perfect example, this is what I'm talking about. We get in the truck. We start driving across the bridge there, the Wabash River. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the bridge, it gets super foggy. And now the bridge looks 10 times wider. And I'm going, Melvin, this doesn't look right. And the bridge just keeps on going and going. And I'm like going, this doesn't feel right. And we go a little bit farther, and we're supposed to make it. There's a place to turn. Never see the turn, never go anywhere. We go about the same distance. And the next thing you know, I'm like going, Melvin, where are we? Because the road goes directly into a 4-lane highway. Doesn't happen. Don't know how. It's like we were transported through the fog. And the next thing you know, on this 4-lane highway, we go, oh, cool. We're driving down the road and we see Hammond, Indiana. And I went, and Melvin went, what? We're 30 miles in the other direction from where we need to be. So it took us an hour to get to where we were going. When I went to turn around, I just crossed the medium, as most terrible people like myself do. No U-turns. Oh, I'm making one right now. Sorry. And I made the U-turn, and as soon as I did, the hood of the truck popped up.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hilarious. And then on the way home, we go back to the bed and breakfast after we've been at this location. And Billy, Melvin, and myself are in one room, and we cannot stop laughing. We were like intoxicated by some weird thing. And we tried to sleep, and I mean to tell you, I guarantee you, anybody in that bed and breakfast did not sleep because we laughed for 3 hours. Gotta go to bed, gotta go to sleep. Okay. And all of a sudden, and everybody take off. Crazy stuff.
Well, and I mean, I can totally see that with that location. And I mean, there's just certain places that regardless of what you're doing, don't be surprised if
That's
something
right.
doesn't go as planned. Always expect the unexpected, just because
Yep.
you never know.
You don't know. You just do not know. And the longer that I've been in it, the more you realize how true that really is.
Yeah. And I'm sure, I know when back when I used to do more residentials, because I don't do very many residentials anymore, but that used to be more of a common thing doing the residentials for me than the commercial locations.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to a location that's not a commercial location, that's sort of like a local legend, it always seems like something either delays the investigation. Like right now, I'm trying to get my season 4 finale finished. Normally that would have come out back in October. Of course, we've had some delays with the jail and stuff, but the locations that I'm filming at, they're very, very far out. I can't even ride my motorcycle to them. It's somewhere that I have to ride the Jeep, and I have to end up hiking. And so I have not been able to get back out because of the weather, or because of something that gets in the way of being able to get back out there and film.
Yeah.
Always happens.
It does. It's amazing, and it's just it continues to be that way,
Yeah.
And as we're just sitting here talking some of the weird things that I've seen, if people are out looking around, take care and look at your environment all the time. Just don't go to work every day and get up and do stuff, because if you're aware of what's going on around you, you're going to see a lot of odd changes in a lot of things. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if anybody has looked at the topographical way that the Earth is right now and areas around you, in the last few years, you're going to see rises and bumps and everything else, because it's really changing weird. And I don't know what's coming up from underneath, but it's coming.
And places are having, I know down here in this area in Cleveland and Chattanooga, North Georgia area, we're having more earthquakes down in this area than what we used to have. Yeah. I mean, we don't have a whole lot, but there was one a few weeks ago, and it was in because Cleveland sits right on the Georgia line, and so it was up in North Georgia. They had one. Now, up there in Scott County, there's a fault line, or actually quite a large fault line that runs right down. It runs like right along the edge, along Campbell County, and you can actually see the fault line there as you're going up the mountain there, Caravel Mountain. you can see the ridges and how the rocks are stacked from the shift.
Yeah.
And it's amazing topography.
It is amazing. It is. It's wonderful to watch. I mean, it's just the stuff that you get interested in, you view, because it's all a miracle. I mean, it's all wonderful things that are going on, you know. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's part of the paranormal world. I mean, paranormal. This is the most paranormal place that I'm happy. You know. So
Now, did you know when you went to Kentucky, did you and Franklin, did you know about just all of the activity whenever you went there, or is that something you found after you moved?
It's really funny. I had I lived all over the country. I had a job, just like everybody. Just didn't come out and say, I'm going to live in mom's basement and be a paranormal investigator all my life. So, no, I had a job and did other things and traveled. I was in Miami, and I had so many places to be able to go to and see some, you know, fantastic haunts, fantastic things. And I was one of those guys that just, when work was over, and if I could get away, I would just pick up the vehicle and go in one direction. And if I don't get home that night, I'd stay in a hotel. And I met some of the greatest people, some of the wonderfulest things in the world, and seen a lot of different housing and houses that were haunted, and heard a lot of different stories and got to investigate some of them. So it was really great. And I did it all my life. But, you know, when you go through all that, it is amazing how much ground you cover. But when I came to Kentucky, it was really weird. I had lost a plant closed in Detroit. I was in Detroit, Michigan, in a plant, and the plant closed, and 2,000 employees were immediately closed. And 3 days later, they gave me a call and says, "Look, we're going to move you to another plant, and you're one of two people, and you get the choice of what plant you want to go to."
Oh, wow.
And the first plant was Sedalia, Missouri, and the second plant was Bowling Green, Kentucky. And I said, "I'm going to Bowling Green."
Good choice.
Yeah. So came to Bowling Green, and then I did a lot of different stuff here. And but in 2001, you know, Billy takes over the Octagon Hall, and I had some people let me know that there was a problem upstairs because nobody wanted to go up in the attic, because that little man, which we call Ed or Eddie, is up there. He was derailing a train, got shot in the hand and foot. He ran to the house. They are holding back the union, trying to keep him so he gets hidden. They hide him up in the attic. He's up there, and when the time they get the union away and they're satisfied he's not there, they go up to get him and give him attention, and he had pulled his boot off, and poor guy expired from a lack of blood. He drained out right there. So that was the story, and nobody wanted to go up in the attic. So I got a phone call and go, "Why don't you come knocking and I'll go up in the attic?" I said, "Okay, cool, I'll do that." And that's how I first met Billy. And then I had a severe accident. I was in a very bad accident, and then had to recoup from that, do all that stuff, and then came back in 2006, 2007, and then got sick again a little while. Then still did the investigation, still did stuff like that. But in 2010, I came back for good and never left out here. So,
well, the hall's lucky to have you there. I mean, that's.
I'm just lucky to be that they want me there. You know, it's their home, it's their place. You know, and I'm glad that they respect. I respect them, and I'm glad that they respect me and let me come there, sit there every day, tour the house, be able to give people information about the house, film, investigate it so that we can tell them their story, and hopefully shortly here when this book comes out of the history of the Octagon Hall and also the paranormal activity. I think people are going to really enjoy that. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I think so. I actually just had dinner with a lady last week who had done who was part of the Fearless Ones ghost hunt, and well, they did like a sky viewing and
Yeah.
Sasquatching
Yeah.
and a paranormal investigation.
Yep.
All they had their big event not well, it wasn't last weekend's weekend before last. And
Yeah.
she had such good things about
Mhm.
to say about that event. It sounded like it was a sold out event and great
Was
turnout. Um, so I really enjoyed hearing about her experience there, because she's also someone. I actually met her when she came up to do a paranormal, not a paranormal investigation, but a public ghost hunt there at the historic Scott County Jail. And
right.
so yeah, she had done the jail,
Uh-huh.
and then ended up going and doing the event there at the hall. And so she's actually coming back to do another ghost hunt there at the jail this month. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, just
Yep.
wonderful things she had to
Yeah.
say about it.
You gotta love the fearless ones.
Yes.
Jason, Doogie, and Jeremy. They're just great individuals, excellent people. They put on a very great uh, event, and they get everybody excited about it. And it's just great to watch them and be able to be there with them. They're good people.
Yes.
It's
That's
really
what I was
funny.
telling her. I said you can't ask for a better group of guys to go and check
Yeah,
the hall out with.
exactly. Yeah, and it's so funny. Right before we did the show, I'm getting a text message from this Jason guy, and he's like, "Hey! Is there another weekend for a Friday and Saturday available in a certain month?" And I said, "Yeah." And it's just a good point to say. One of my most favorite people are going to be having an event that I have been waiting for her to have an event for a long time. And it's coming up this year on September 10th.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's going to be the Ghost Biker, Miranda Young. And I hope that you bring Chris Summers, the doctor, with you also.
That's right.
And we're going to have a wonderful time at Octagon Hall. So look for that event. It's going to be coming out shortly.
Yes.
Uh, and we'll be marking that and everything else. And you don't want to miss that one either, because that is, this
It's
lady
a
and
long
I,
time in the making.
it is a long time in the making. And
Yes,
I
I've been
am
wanting to, and
thrilled about
me too. Me too. I am just absolutely so excited that we're going to be able to do this, and we're going to do it up big and do it up right. And
it. Yeah.
yeah, September 10th. The goal, and I know you and I got to talk some logistics there, but I know the goal that I have is to do a motorcycle ride that day with that will culminate or will end there at the hall. And it'll go through some really cool areas there in Kentucky, end at the hall with like a historic tour, kind of a daytime event, and
Yep.
then rolling into a sort of a VIP ghost hunt that
Yeah.
evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. Poker runs, what we used to call when I was riding, we
Yes.
used to call poker runs all the time.
Yes.
And we used to go everywhere, and it just great times. And there's no better back roads to go back around and here in Kentucky, and especially when you can go see the fork in the road. That's worth the
Right.
price of admission itself, right there.
Franklin is something to see with their
Yeah,
their
it is.
forks and their monoliths and their
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's like
it
the
is.
center of the
It's very
paranormal universe right there.
right. It is. It is the center of the paranormal universe. And boy, I'll tell you, when I moved here from Bowling Green, and it made it easier to be back and forth to the home, But I live on one of the most haunted. Imagine this: I live on one of the most haunted streets in
No
Franklin.
way.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really weird. I've heard a lot of the stories, but I've also investigated a lot of these houses, and I'm going, wow. I live in the
Wow.
mega part of the, Go Central down here. So, yeah.
And that's what I tell a lot of people, when they talk about some of the different places, and I have nothing but love for places like Gettysburg and some of these other very, very large, well-known places, but Kentucky and Tennessee, there are so many places that you can investigate, and just different stories of hauntings. These two areas, these two states, and those two specific areas, and
Yeah.
I'm not taking away from anything West Virginia, Virginia, all of that, but here in the South, I mean, just within very close distance. I mean, you
Right.
know, like take Franklin for instance. You can come up, and that's what I did last summer. I've actually got to release an episode about the old stone jail, but I
Uh-huh.
came up and spent an entire weekend and investigated one night there at the hall, and
Yeah.
then went about 15, 20
Six,
minute down the road.
it's
If
6
that.
miles,
Yeah.
less than 6 miles down the road, right into the center of town. And, golly, I can't tell you how wonderful Billy and his team are to deal with down there. Billy Wilkerson. He
Yes.
also, and it's great. I love people that are into the paranormal. And it's just like we mentioned about Doogie, Jeremy, the fearless ones, and Jason. And, and we are all out helping. And when we need help at the hall, well, by gosh, guess what? They're all there to help. I mean, they want to help. It's great when this year Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Billy's team came up and did some great novice hunts for us in October, and they had a great time. People got to enjoy it because there's some very special people in the paranormal.
Yes, and in your area, I
We're
mean,
blessed with that. So
yeah, the Kentucky, Tennessee area there, just
yeah,
that group, it's such a great network of investigators, and
Mhm.
if you know one, you end up knowing them all because you all
That's right,
become.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, just the events that Billy had there at
Yeah,
the jail. It was like the very first year, I knew a
uh-huh.
lot of the folks, but most of them I either knew them and had never met them in person.
Right.
But you come back for that second year, it's like coming back to a family reunion,
It is. It's exactly that way.
and
Exactly.
just supportive.
Yeah.
The Black Wolf, Night Stalkers, everyone is just so supportive of what everyone is doing, and I just can't say enough good things about these folks.
Oh, I can't either, and so let's not try. But they
No,
know we.
that's right. That would take us the rest of the night.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So, any other big things that are coming up that you can mention with Night Stalkers, with the hall, with
No, it's kind of like going with the fearless one. We got a lot of things in the work, but we can't talk about them.
I understand that.
you know, yeah, I mean, we really like to talk about it, but we can't talk about that. That's okay. So let's go to the next subject. What else is going on?
Just know, keep an eye out. Things are going on.
Yeah, just know they're going. Well, I'll tell you what. The Night Stalkers are on their way to West Virginia, and our great friend Dave Spinks and Serenity Jenny have opened a wonderful place up there, Dave Spinks World of the Weird, and next to it there's a Serenity Jenny Springs Soul Center, and it is going to have a grand opening, and they're having a big monster bash up there.
Nice.
And we are speakers on that Saturday up there, and we're going to tell some tales and meet some great people and have some great fun. And it's going to be enjoyable because, I love West Virginia. I love
Home.
Kentucky. I love Tennessee and all that area. It's all home to me. And it's going to be great going back home and seeing some of the great people up there because they're the salt of the earth, man. They're the best people in the world. Their souls are pure and then gold sometimes. So.
That's right. Yeah, I need to get Dave on the show because I know, talk about somebody that's always got something going on.
Yeah, yeah, and he buzzed me today, and it was just incredible. And I'm looking at it, says, "Well, okay, but too bad I can't do that right now because unfortunately, if I'd have known different, you can't do everything that you'd love to do,
Yeah.
but you sure do the best to make everybody happy. I think so.
Yeah, and especially when you get, not tied to a location, but when you get a location too, it makes it harder as well, to be able to.
I know for right now we're collaborated on a book with Donna Hartley Lucas in Gallatin. She runs the Gallatin Ghost Hunts.
Yes.
And we're going to be down there on February, I think 26th or 28th. Melvin, if you're in the chat room still, go ahead and put that date out because I know you got it right in your head because you are the hound dog. And we'll be down there doing a quick event. So it's really something special. And hello there, Beth Allen. I just saw you pop up on the screen. And I love you, darling. And thank you for everything that you do and how you support everybody here in this thing. You're a wonderful person. I'm so glad to have you here tonight.
Absolutely. Yes. So where are the best places to, because again, I tried to put all the different locations in the show notes there, but let's just kind of run through right quick where people can find information about Night Stalkers, the Hall, and,
Night Stalkers has a webpage, NightStalkers Paranormal Research.org. We also have a Facebook page, Night Stalkers Paranormal Research on Facebook. You can also catch us on Into the Far, which is our weekly Tuesday night thing that we enjoy so much. And we've got some really cool things coming up on that too. So stay tuned for that. So we're excited. We're very excited about that. And so it's going to be a good year. Also, where else can you find us? You can find us on Bear A Night Stalkers page. That's me, and we all love to talk to anybody that wants to talk to us. And so we're very, very friendly people, and sometimes to a fault. But
and you've got dates open for paranormal investigations at the Hall.
We do have dates open for, and it's very easy. You go to octagonhallmuseum.com, get on the website, and it will lead you right to it. It'll say paranormal. There's a paranormal page right there, and it's got a drop-down menu. If you go, it says paranormal, drop down, and it says book an investigation, real easy. And as you go down, you'll see a calendar and the dates that are in green. And we do, you can rent the Hall Sunday through Sunday, through Saturday and Sunday, the whole week. And as you see, the weekends are very popular. And then when you get towards the summer, they start filling in all the other little green spots in the middle of the week. But now's a great time to be able to get your reservations in, plan ahead.
Definitely want to plan ahead for that location because I know dates do book up.
Yes, they do book up very quickly, and they run in spurts. We had this cold spell, and even though in past the Hall doesn't normally rent in January and February to great extents, but this year, God bless the people who came out to the Hall and helped the Hall stay open, and made their donation to come hunt that night, and they braved some incredible weather, and they all had great times, and the Hall has been very active lately. So,
and you've got looks like you've got novice hunts as well.
Yep. The only bad thing about that novice hunt, it's sold out, and that's coming up on the 19th.
Nice.
And we sold that out in a week. So it goes very, very, very quickly.
How often do you do novice hunts every month, or is that sort of a special?
We used to do them every month, and now we've kept them very special because the the thing that's important to remember is I like to try to rent the hall out to teams. And in the areas we can fill it in to be able to have one, if we have an open night, we would try to do that. But most of the times we give it to the paranormal investigations, because we've had so many of them up there. It's fantastic, and I love them to be able to experience the hall.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way we structure it there at the jail. Is we will sometimes put a hunt on there, but paranormal investigators get top priority, and so kind of on that date, whichever books first, if we have a public ghost hunt scheduled and nobody's booked it before a team comes in, then we remove that public hunt off there. But this month this month we've done really good and sold out our 2 public hunts that we've had, and we keep them small. We limit them to 8 people, just keeping it smaller. And so that people can have a good intimate type experience. And that's
so important. And we do it, we'll do 10 to 13, depending. And the hall, we find it works real easy because you can separate them and move them around and still have a great time. And,
y'all can go outside. We don't have a lot of of outside. We're a little more limited on our space.
Yeah, well, and the people who go outside sometimes wish they didn't.
Because I'm telling you, they're on a good night with with all that land, with the barns, with the cornfields and all that. I mean, there's so much you can investigate, and if it's the right night, you can get more activity outside than inside.
Yeah, exactly. The shadow figures are phenomenal at Octagon Hall at night.
Yeah.
You get to see them during the day inside the house, and you'll see them outside every once in a while. But so many people have said, you really want to see a shadow figure walking across the yard, come to Octagon Hall and sit out there and watch them, because there's a number of them.
Yeah.
And they love to hang around your car. I don't know what it is,
And that place gets eerie at night. It's a fun place, and it sounds weird, but it's fun how eerie it can get. I remember the night I left, because I was since I was investigating at the jail the next night. I rode my motorcycle to the hotel I was staying at there in downtown. And I remember when I was leaving, getting on my bike and leaving there. And I just felt like, it was the darkest night. And it was for the summer I believe I was there in, it was either June, it was early July. It was cold I had on a pair of yoga pants and a t-shirt, and rode the motorcycle back to the hotel in that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a jacket. Most of the time you would think in July you wouldn't need a jacket.
Right. Exactly.
It was like 4:00 in the morning. And I remember when I got on the bike, I didn't want to look back at the house for some weird reason. It's just kind of like, as I was getting on there, I felt so open and exposed. And I was just kind of like, don't look back at the house. I don't know why. Because normally I like to look back and see if I can see something looking out the window or see something walking on the property. But for some reason, and I'm very superstitious when it comes to where I like to ride my motorcycle to on investigations, because I always feel like there's some places you just don't want to do that, because you just and that's for some reason I was just like, I don't want to look back. I just want to get on the bike and I want to go. And I'm going to blame it on the cold, but for some reason it was so dark and it was very eerie.
There are some unexplainable things at the hall. And one of the things about it is, if you're leaving and it's a Saturday night and you're leaving late at night and it's 3:00 in the morning and you go to shut the gate, everybody's out, you're going to lock the gate up because the hall's going to be empty for 3 days.
Yeah.
And you look back in the way and you go, what in the hell is that?
Yeah.
And so I always, when I do it, I just lock down like this, go like this, and go. And then now all you got to deal with the noises of things going, hey.
Well, it was interesting because, we came back because we had time to kill. We pretty much had the day to kill before we went to investigate the jail.
Yeah.
And so we came back and spent several hours shooting B-roll and visiting with you there at the hall. Met you for lunch. And I remember, I'm trying to think of who it was you said, was it your son? Someone had driven past that night at 2:00 in the morning and said they looked over, or maybe it wasn't 2, but it was sometime in the middle of the night. So they looked over and they couldn't see the hall.
Yeah.
It was blacked out because they had asked you if I was there.
Yeah,
And because I
exactly.
was there till about 4. And
Yeah.
between 4 and 5 that night. And you were saying that it
And that was my
just,
stepson. He was coming back from work. And, it's funny. The hall has had stories like that for a long, long time. People go by it, they don't see it. And then other times they see wagons going across the street pulling into the hall. They see the lady in white walking around. Sometimes she's covered in blood by the highway. And people won't stop. The first thing you go, they'll call the hall. There's a lady covered in blood walking around. I said, "Well, did you call the police or anything like that? Because maybe she got injured and she needs help." Don't call the hall. The next day, going, "Well, so this." No, so I got to walk out and look for a corpse. But and it's funny because the sheriff's departments and the city police here, they understand the hall very, very well. They've been called out here a lot. And they don't like the Octagon Hall either. So, there's a lot of things that go on here. But
so they're just like, it's the hall.
And it's like going, okay, go ahead and go in. We'll wait out here. If there's anything in there, don't worry. We'll get it if it's coming out. Go in and check it out.
And let us know.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is funny, but we've had quite a lot of experiences there. But the hall is just one of these wonderful places, and there's so many of them in certain areas. We're just blessed to have a lot of them in Kentucky, and it's great. And I'm just so glad that we all get to experience it, enjoy it, and be able to tell the stories that we have out there. So it's great.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. And, thank you so much, Bear, for taking the time to come on and chat.
And it's my pleasure. My pleasure. I'll chat with you any day. As you know, I just, ever since the beginning when I first met you at the hall and the weird way that we actually met. And then for some reason or other, we're always walking around and we bump into people. Each other at conferences where we're speaking together or just out there. And it's always a great pleasure, and I always enjoy it when I get to be with you or have you on our show. And I always, please give the doc my very, very best, because Chris Summers is just a special, special person. I'm so glad that you two get to have the opportunity to be able to have your own location, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I can't wait for NightStalkers and Bear and all that good stuff to be able to come down there and spend a day looking at that stuff. So what do you think about it, NightStalkers? You want to go to see the Scott County Jail?
Yes, come on. Yeah,
so.
We it really is. I can't think of a better person to go into business with, and
she's
spend the days working and really trying to grow and preserve this. So love it. And I'll be seeing her tomorrow whenever I go back into Scott County and essentially start my week up at the Scott County Jail. So again, thank you. I mean, the pleasure is truly mine. It is a true honor
it's actually my
to
pleasure.
spend spend the
Thank you
hour.
very much.
You are very welcome, and thank you to everyone for taking the time to watch, your questions, your comments. It's like sitting around with friends here. So I just enjoy that you all spend your
Yeah.
evening with me. So this show,
Thank you
like I
all.
said, absolutely, yeah, like I said, it's airing on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn right now. It will drop on Saturday night on mixtv.com or MyMixTV. So definitely, you guys keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for other events and stuff going on, because I know that Bear and I will be working on the logistics of
Yeah.
the Ghost Biker event on September 10th. So we need to get that stuff out so that we can get it on the schedule and get people planning for that, get it on people's calendars before they plan to do something else in September, because I know it's a prime writing month.
Super
But we
writing.
we have that. Keep an eye out for the May 14th second annual Harold Young Dart Run scholarship. We'll be having more information on that, as well as in April, I will be up at St. Albans. I think there are still a few tickets for the EnigmaCons event. I don't think there's very many. I think there are a couple left of that. So those different events are coming up, as well as different events at the historic Scott County Jail. So I just can't say enough about that. If you are interested in taking one of our flashlight tours, or if you would like to see about getting, if you don't have a team and you would like to come up and investigate with myself and Dr. Sumner, get with us. We've got some dates available, and we will be announcing March dates here pretty quick as well. So anyway, so I hope everyone has a great night. Let me just check the calendar here. My guest next week, because we are pretty much booked up through May now with some amazing guests going on. So next week I'm going to have Brian Cantu, and he's going to be he is an amazing medium, and so he's going to be coming on and talking about some of the cases and some of the things that he's worked on. And then at the end of the month, I've got Lynn Dorman on. So, and then there's a couple different podcasts and such that we'll be announcing that I'm going to be on live. So just stay tuned to the Ghost Biker Explorations page, and tune in on Monday night for the Jailhouse Informant, where Dr. Sumner and I will be live at the historic Scott County Jail. So until then, everyone, take care and have a great week.